because I honestly am not 100% sure I've got the microphone hooked up correctly to do it this way. So, Bladed Ginger, I had your knife in my pocket last night. I had it in the pocket of my jacket and forgot to put it in my pocket drop because I took my jacket off. So I am currently enjoying a, how's the audio? Can you hear me? Like somebody let me know the audio sounds good. It says that there's no one here and no likes, but Bladed Ginger apparently is here. So the dog and I, buddy, are sitting here on the couch. I just got off work, hour and a half ago, so I'm enjoying an adult beverage. Someone please let me know, yes or no, audio is good. I'm like trying to... I'm trying to make sure that the... Let's see, I want live chat. Word, yeah, okay, yeah, so... Hi, Scott. How are you, buddy? Yeah, so I just got home, and I wanted to talk about this because I get pinned as the guy that never. I get pinned as the guy who's like, "Hey, you just don't like American-made knives. You don't like this. And you only show for Chinese brands." And I'm like, bro, I just like knives. And I think we've went through this a bunch of times enough that I shouldn't have to keep saying that, but I keep getting like labeled as that, you know? So I thought we would look at some of my favorite American brands. And so I've got a handful of them out here. But in concert with that, we're going to talk about a few brands up front that I'm really not happy with. Brands that, you guys want to see something cool? This dude, this guy right here. Check out this guy right here. Let's turn this around. What are you doing? What are you doing? We're on the couch together. We don't spend as much time together as we'd like, so... Chunky, look up, look at me. Let me say hi to everybody. Say hi to everybody. Say hi. Say hi. He's upset because I won't let him go out in the yard with the landscaper. Loves the landscaper. You like that guy, don't you? So, any rate, there are a handful of USA companies that I'm fed up with. I'm done with. Not happy with the way that they do their business. I'm not happy with the way they treat their customers. Not happy with the way they treat the knife community in general. And we're going to talk about two of them right up front, and it's Hinderer Knives and Jake Hoback. Now, you got to make some differentiations, so we got to set some guidelines here. So when I'm talking about USA-made knives, it could be any company, but I'm specifically talking about more like small batch and production style. I'm not talking about like custom brands and things like that, like Lon Humphrey and stuff like that. If you guys are interested in it, drop a comment and let me know what your favorite American brands are. But there's a couple out there that I won't ever have any more dealings with. And one of them is Jake Hoback, Hoback Knives. And I think we all know the reason. He has tried to say, oh, well, I didn't know they were selling those knives as American made and this and that. No, I don't believe it. I honestly don't believe it. I think it was a lie of omission. And the funny thing is, he led the charge against my friend Jason Browse when Jason was getting parts manufactured overseas, bringing those parts to the United States, and then putting knives together and making them here and then calling them USA made, because he was incurring more than 51% of the cost. Perfectly legal. What Jake was doing is worse than that, because he had knives that he knew were completely made in China and were allowing vendors to sell them as American made. That's my problem with it. So that's where the big one is. And I'm not seeing, like, guys, I don't see anyone here. I want to see, I'm trying to get the chat up. Let me know what you think about that. But the other one is Rick Hinderer. And for a long time, I liked Rick. I liked Rick's knives. I liked the idea of Rick being a fellow Ohioan and having his company in Ohio and doing all that stuff. And then he just kind of went sideways. And when people would question his business, when people would question his quality, when people questioned the heat treat, he allowed his employees to just berate people that were asking questions, berate people that were bringing valid critiques of things. His knives are too soft. His knives are garbage soft. To quote someone else, they're baby shit soft. And he's using steels that should be run at a much higher HRC. So there's two right there. And then you're probably not going to see Benchmades on my channel anymore because they just went insane with their pricing. So now that we've got all of that out of the way, the companies you won't ever see on my channel again, Hinder, probably Benchmade, unless it's something really special that I really dig, or something somebody sends me that I get a kick out of. There are some good Benchmades out there, don't get me wrong. I just think that they're charging way too much. They're insane. So next thing I want to talk about, there's a difference between, say, small batch and full production. And what I'm talking about is I consider Microtech, yay, Will knows. Guys, if you're here, drop a like. It helps the channel. Spyderco is putting out, this is Golden, Colorado, made in the United States. They are putting out a ton of knives. That's full production. You can get these knives pretty much anytime you want. Emerson, you know how I feel about that. The reason you won't see an Emerson on my channel is I just don't like Emerson knives. It has nothing to do with any personal bias. Microtech is another large batch full production company. So when I'm talking about like American made knives, there's a difference. So I have some small batch stuff here, and then I have some full run production. Like literally there are thousands of these. And everybody's like, no, they didn't make very many of that Microtech amphibian. And I'm like, no, they did. They just sold them all. Because there's something I want to talk about Microtech. So I've been a fan of Microtech knives. So we're going to jump into Microtech first. So we'll get the two production ones, and then we'll get into like smaller batch, really specific special stuff. And I'm going to keep this to an hour. So Microtech is a company I've followed and loved for a long time. The first Microtech knives I ever bought were a Microtech DOC and a whale shark. No, Benchmade is definitely overrated. I bought a DOC and a whale shark, and then at the same time, I bought a couple of Ultratechs because I had a lot of disposable income at the time. So can you guys hear the lawnmower? The landscaper is mowing the yard. And so I got those knives, and I didn't like the whale shark so much. So I got rid of it, I sold it, and I got all the Ultratechs basically to see what one I wanted, the configuration I wanted. And I realized that I didn't want an OTF, really. So I got rid of all of them but one. I have two now. But the cool thing about Microtech is, this is the Microtech Amphibian. This is probably the best American-made production, like full big batch production knife on the market right now. There's other companies out there that are American companies that are putting out incredible knives. I don't like them. Oz Machining, they have really good knives. They're not knives that I really like. When I'm talking about big, full production knives, Microtech definitely is hitting that. And their quality has not changed. Their quality has not dropped off. Their knives are still amazing. They do probably some of the best aluminum work you're gonna see on any knife. And this knife is about $110. Actually, if you were to look at what I paid for the Microtech DOC, this knife is about $140 less than what I paid for the Microtech DOC. With no drop in quality, Microtech is going the opposite direction of the idiots at Benchmade, and they're not raising their prices to $700 on substandard quality knives. They've lowered their price and not changed anything that they're doing. The only thing I could say that maybe is a cost-saving measure is this doesn't have any proprietary hardware. They may be getting some of the parts, like the parts for the lock mechanism, done off-site, but it's still 100% American production knife. It's an amazing knife. This is my pick for knife of the year right now. I like it so much. Will B sent me one. I reviewed it, and then 2 days later, I had had his knife for 2 days when I bought mine. I was like, I can't not have this. So we'll talk about that. There's a lot of companies. We're going to talk about Spyderco in a minute. So if you're here, please drop a like. It pushes up the algorithm. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free. It's just a little button that you push. There's 13 of you watching and only 2 likes, which is disappointing because I'm a pretty man. And I do know I'm going live at the same time as Cole. But the fact is, I'm not going to stay up past too much longer to do this. So Microtech is offering the knives that they had on their listing of knives. They're starting to lower prices. They're offering new innovations. Their knives are still an incredible value. Even when they were more expensive, they were an incredible value. They were really done well. They're a great group of people to talk to and deal with. Their customer service, when I first bought my first few Microtechs, their customer service was a little iffy. But over the years, they've gotten their customer service fixed out, any of their quality issues, quality control issues. I haven't experienced them. So Microtech is, I think, if I had to pick an American production company, I think they're my favorite production company. As far as production, like I said, there's other brands out there. So Microtech right now is leading the charge, and this is by far my favorite knife that I've purchased in a very, very long time. This is up there on that list, that short list of knives that are on the same level of enjoyment in carry as my Norseman, which this eats up so much of my pocket time. So there's that. That's the Microtech stuff. So Microtech full on. Now, Bladed Ginger just asked, how do I feel about companies like Microtech making a model or two outside the US? I don't mind. I think that if they can lower prices and get knives out there that people want, that are in demand. And the only reason, I'm going to tell you one right now, this is, Medford really got bent out of shape when Tony Marfione decided that he was going to make the SOCOM Delta in China. And my take on that is, he's just jealous that he has not come up with a design that people want bad enough that he can fill up his production base with his own knives. If you are an American manufacturer and you are a world-renowned manufacturer or knife maker or designer, and you have got time to make knives that are not yours, then your designs are not as popular as Tony's. Tony could not keep up demand for the SOCOM series of knives, and he said, I got to do something because I can't push out enough for people that they want, so he had them made offshore. I have no problem with that. Spyderco, they have stuff made in Japan. They have stuff made in Taiwan. I believe that they have had some stuff made in China. But the fact is, Spyderco does it. I'm not a fan of Medford's knives. He just does not. The day that Medford hits on a design that really speaks to the masses, that's when he stops making knives for mixed rider. And I have to admit, like, his knives are great, but that's not a company we're going to talk about, because I personally can't stand Greg Medford as a person. And I don't like his designs. Knives that he has made for other companies, stellar. I love them. They're great knives. The best mixed striders that have ever been made were done by Greg Medford. So, Spyderco. Spyderco has got a series of knives that are made in Taiwan. They've got knives they make in Japan, and they've got stuff that they make in Golden, Colorado. Their knives are not anywhere near as pricey as, they're not as pricey as I've led everyone to believe. And there's 21 people here and only 5 likes, which is a sin. That is a crime. Their knives are fairly reasonable priced. Sometimes I don't think you get your money's worth because you're paying for an injection molded fiberglass reinforced nylon handles that a lot of times have got a lot of flex and play, and they just kind of feel cheap and things like that. But with that aside, a lot of their really good knives, anything with a compression lock, any of their pressed stainless stuff, the police, even the new police models, they are amazing. And I didn't grab any of my other Spydercos because this is the only USA-made Spyderco I have. But their stuff that they do in Golden, Colorado is great. And it's full on production. It's very rare that you can't find a PM2. This is my Spyderco PM2. This is an S90V. It's very rare that you just can't find a PM2 anywhere. You may have a hard time finding a specific steel. This one's an S90V. My favorite, one of my favorite steels out there. Absolutely love it. You may have a hard time finding the scale, colors, and configuration that you want, but you're going to always be able to find a Spyderco PM2 somewhere. And they're not crazy priced. They're not. Like I said with Benchmade. Benchmade has knives out there. Benchmade has knives in their catalog that they're selling for $700. I have never seen a Benchmade that I've handled that I would pay $400 for. I have paid $400 for Microtechs. Oh, speaking of which, one of the best factory edges you're ever going to find is on it's going to be on a Microtech knife. It's going to be on a Microtech. Aiden! I sent you my address, by the way. So back to Spyderco. Spyderco has just really been doing a good job. They've gotten back in my good graces. Their prices are not through the roof. Some of their knives are more expensive than they need to be, yes. But when you look at the pricing structure across the board, this, yeah, here's the thing, I like Ernie. I just don't like Ernie's knives. So, their quality is really good. And if you're getting something like this, it's got a compression lock. These are G10 handles with a full steel liner. This is a very stable knife. As a matter of fact, this is my pick for the best all-around EDC knife of all time. This is, for a EDC folder, this is the GOAT. Love everything about it. And if you are interested in that little doohickey right there, that's on my compression lock, that is the Compression Made Easy by Justin over at OCD for EDC. You need one of these to try out at least once. They're not that expensive. They're easy to put on. It's just super glued on. And as long as you're not prying on it, it's fine. It really makes this knife more like a left-handed button lock. And if you're left-handed, it's going to make your life a lot easier with disengaging. I can get in there on, like once you get used to it, you can just get on the corner of it there. Makes it so much easier. But Spyderco's American-made knives are really good. They do have some flaws. They have some issues, most notably with their edge grinds. If you're not good at 200 vitrified diamond stone, I'm pleading with is nutty tote. Oh, so you really aren't going to go. You're not going to go wrong with a good Spyderco, and not even just their USA made ones. Their stuff that's made in Taiwan is really good. Their stuff in Japan always is good heat treat. Their VG10, they've been using VG10 for years and years and years. They were the first company. They were the first company that used it that I knew of, and really, that's what my Spydercos back in the day kind of instilled that love for VG10 in me. But the heat treat on this, I got to say, the heat treat on this is absolutely. This is probably the best heat treat I've ever had on S90V from any company. To include, the only thing I've had that was as good or better was a custom heat treat on S90V by Elliott Williamson. In-house, small batch, no more than 5 blades heat treat, which is a very, very controlled, very reliable way to do a heat treat. And you're not going to get that in big production heat treat. So to say that that heat treat is that good, comparing it to a custom heat treat, that says a lot. That means that they got their heat treat right. This just holds an edge forever. So as far as production companies, my 2 big picks for, you know, full-on production full-on production would be Spyderco and Microtech. I know there's a lot of people like Benchmade, but like I said, they've dropped their prices by about $150. Benchmade has raised theirs exponentially. Knives from Benchmade that should cost no more than $100 are costing you $250, $300 sometimes. And some of them are upwards of $400, $400 to $700. So yeah, I'm sending you a 400 grit. It's better than the Edge Pro ones. Okay, I'll see how I like it. So next we're going to get into some companies that are more, I'm sorry, is my stuff in your way, buddy? He wants to come on. I got a mustache hair in my mouth. We're going to talk about some companies that are more into, they would still be considered production, but they're smaller batch. If you guys have ever tried to get a Chris Reeve Sebenza, you know what I'm talking about, which is the next company, which there's other companies. There's some amazing American companies out there that fall into this category. We're talking like Oz Machining. Like, I don't like their knife models, but their knives are flawless. I just find them to be also a little soulless. You're talking like CRK, Chris Reeve knives. Who else? Oh, Koenig knives. Their stuff is great. It's a lot smaller production runs of their knives than you're gonna get in like a Microtech or some of the others. The Oz Roosevelts, they're really hard to come by because they're small batch. They're almost falling into the same category as the next groups of knives we're going to talk about. So this is probably the knife. When I think of an American-made EDC folding knife, this is the knife I think of. It's the Chris Reeve Sebenza. Now they have the large Sebenza, the small Sebenza. That's great, Tracy, but that's not the topic of this video. I am going to do a video about like size doesn't matter when it comes to puncturing wounds. I saw another video about it and I was like, I already knew that was true. At any rate, when you're carrying this, that's not what the purpose of this knife is anyway. This is just the quintessential American folding EDC knife. Like, for a lot of folks in the knife community, when you think of an EDC folding knife that's a USA made knife, this is what pops in your head. The Chris Reeve Sebenza. Now they had the Sebenza 21. They had what is now a different version of it. It originally was, I think the Inkosi is what became the Sebenza. Was it the 25, I think? Had an extra finger choil. I got one for my best friend as a birthday present. I didn't like it. It felt weird in my hand, and I didn't like to change the angle of the pocket clip, which then they changed. This is a 21, so you're going to see things on this that have been changed, like the lack of that positioning hole and things like that. But this is definitely one of the best folding work knives you're ever gonna have. The second one I owned. The original one I had was in BG42 steel. It's what they had for a while started calling the Classic. And then I sold it, immediately regretted it, and bought another one. I bought a Sebenza 21. You can't go wrong with the work that are on these. They are just incredible. They have a nice hollow grind. They stay sharp for a very long time. The heat treat, they did start rectifying heat treat on some of their S35V end that people were complaining about being kind of soft. So all titanium construction, one of the best pocket clips in the knife market. The way that they're built, the way they're put together, just rock solid. And you have to admit, there is something about the smoothness of a Sebenza for just a thumb roll that's just amazing. The lockup and everything that's on them is just incredible. And they're just some of the best knives you're ever going to find. I have had a Sebenza. I'm trying to think how many years I've had a Sebenza. I was still active duty. So it was prior to 2009 when I retired. So I just can't remember when I got my first one. And I got this one in 2000. Oh, when did I get this one? When did I get this one? I don't think I have my flashlight in my pocket. Do I have my flashlight in my pocket? I'll be able to tell you. I got this one in 2016. 2016 was when I got this one. I had just sold the other one. I replaced it. So I had one We're going to talk about them in a little bit too. So this is just, it has always been one of the go-to knives. And on top of that, I'm friends with Tim. I'm friends with his mom. I'm friends with the folks over at Koenig. They all are in the same area. Now that I'm working full time, it's not going to happen, but there was a plan that I was going to go visit them. So yeah, this is probably, when we were talking about like small batch, they're not small batch, but they're also not large batch. These are kind of things that you'll be able to find throughout the year, and they're not as hard to come by as some of the others, like this one, which is a close cousin to some of my Microtechs. This is the Heretic Knives Medusa, and I love TJ's knives. Now, if you guys don't know, Anthony Marfione Jr., TJ, he owns and operates Heretic Knives. They have some of the best OTFs and out-the-side switchblades. This is a Heretic Medusa Auto with a custom two-tone on it and an old-school original H-clip. I have yet to hear anyone complain about a Heretic knife. Heretic knives, Heretic blades, is it I can't remember. At any rate, this one is serialized. These things are great. I've never heard anyone complain or say bad things about them. TJ is one of the coolest guys you're ever gonna meet at a knife show or any of those places. He's a really, really good guy. Okay, I should be back. My phone was ringing and I forgot to put it on Do Not Disturb. Sorry about that, guys. You can hear me, right? Like it didn't cut out my audio completely. So I forgot to put everything on Do Not Disturb a little early. There we go. So audio's back though, right? Okay. Yeah, I knew it was going to cut out. So, well, everybody left. Apparently me dropping out for a minute had everybody leave. So at any rate, yeah, these are some of the best knives you're ever going to come across. They're all handmade, or at least they were the last time that I got a chance to talk with Tony, it's TJ, because I haven't got to talk to him for a while. Surefire? Yeah, Surefire has, guys, like a lot of people like, oh, you got an IED in your pocket. How's it feel to have that thing catch on fire yet? I've had way more problems with Surefire lights than I have O-Light. Speaking of which, I have an affiliate link down below. I think they have a sale going on. I didn't like the Surefire stuff. We had it when I was in the military. I didn't like it then. The batteries are really fucking expensive. If you get a rechargeable one, it's always like intrusive trying to recharge it. But at any rate, Heretic Knives has really always impressed me. They have OTFs that I really dig, but I'm just not an OTF guy. You guys know that. I find them not to be practical. If I'm gonna get a switchblade, it's gonna be an out the side, a push button out the side like this. They're much more practical than you're going to get in an OTF out the front. And I should have gotten my Microtech OTFs when we were talking about Microtech. But yeah, Heretic knives, their knives are always reliable. And they're always done well. And they're always attractive. And from what I understand, if you do have a problem, TJ and those guys are really, really good about taking care of their customers. And I'm sorry that it seems like you know what we should do? You guys want to see? Let's see. Let's see if we can do this. I feel like I'm too low and it feels like you're not getting to see properly. So we're gonna lower this down a little bit so I'm more centered. Is that better? Because if it's like it is for me, I'm holding stuff up in the chat. So I really don't recommend autos. So while we're adjusting, I'm using my tripod. Like I didn't go full low rent. It's not like you guys are, it's not like old school when you guys used to sit on a coffee can in the kitchen. There we go, that's better. I think I'm going to lower it down even more. Let's see here. Let's see. You guys tell me, is that better? Does that put me, yeah, that's better. That puts me more at an angle where you guys are able to see the stuff. There we go, yeah. Warner Construction. How are you? I'm more centered. Well, I'm more centered because I've been meditating. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, Heretic. The shootout is one of the best for the price. Which one's the shootout? Is that CRKT? I can't remember what the shootout. I haven't gotten to see it. And like, I don't like OTFs. That's been my big thing. I find them impractical because their failure rate and they're so picky. Like if you're in a dirty environment, you're not gonna be able to. Benchmade. Never mind. Fuck Benchmade and their exorbitant prices. OTFs are really finicky. They're really finicky. They're easy to get to fail when they get dirty. You constantly got to be like cleaning them up and stuff like that. That's why I don't carry my Microtechs. I don't care. Like I've never really been afraid of carrying my Ultratech or my UTX 85. I don't care. Microtech doesn't use proprietary screws on a lot of stuff anymore. That's what I was saying. Like this doesn't have proprietary screws. Most of their stuff, they went back, and I think they realized that they were spending a lot of money on proprietary screws, and it wasn't getting them anywhere. Because the second they would release a new one, somebody would make tools for it. So now we're going to get into stuff like we've talked about, like small batch, smaller batch production. These next couple are going to be a different animal. These are very exclusive. They are USA made. They are production. They're not custom. They're not, well, some of them I would consider almost custom, but I really feel that these kind of are in that range where they're still production, but they're extremely small batch. Low numbers being produced at a time. They're all hand done. And I'm going to tell you of the two, even though I'm friends with the folks that make the fancy one, Alex SteinGrabber. SteinGrabber Performance Knives. This is the Lamia. Alex gave this to me. He sent this to me for review, and I was like, bro, I keep forgetting to send that back to you. Like, I just need to get that back to you because I'll tell you what I do. Just keep it. I was like, bro, I can't do that. And he goes, no, I'm telling you, keep it. And I was like, I'm going to tell you one more time, I can't do that. And he goes, I said, keep it. And I'm like, I'm not going to ask again. This one is in crew wear. This is probably hands down the best cutting knife I've ever had. This thing is super thin behind the edge, maintains that thinness down. It's done really well. The heat treat on this is absolutely stellar. The mechanism and well, the lock mechanism and everything, it's a frame lock. It is a simple lock. But everything that's been done to this, it's just so good. And a lot of people are like, well, that's really plain looking. And I was like, you know what? Sometimes plain is elegant. This is plain, but it's not like the Oz Roosevelt, which is soulless, which the Oz Roosevelt would be a company that kind of falls into the same category as this, where it's ultra low numbers, ultra low batches of knives. There are not a lot of these coming out at any given time. I think he just did 100, but he's been working on them for a while. Like he said he was going to mail out like 100 or 110. But elegant, simple can be elegant. Simple can be good. And when you add the extreme functionality and carryability of this knife, and then just the balance and weight of it, this is by far, and you guys can see, I use this knife a lot. There are very few knives out there that I think do as good a job in almost any task as this knife. This spends a lot of time in my pocket when I'm not reviewing knives, when I'm like after I'm done for the day for reviewing on like my days off. This is what goes in my pocket because it's just incredible. And there's no wasted space on it. So you have basically what's a full functioning choil, but there's no actual choil. So guys that don't like choils, you're not giving up anything, but you can still choke way up on it. And as far as just cutting horsepower, this thing is a monster. Crewware is a really good steel. Crewware is a very, very good steel, and the heat treat that Alex did on this is awesome. I took this to 1,000 grit and I strop it on 0.9 micron, or I'm sorry, 9 micron strop compound, and it just stays nightmarishly good. Nightmarishly sharp, I should say. Awesome, awesome knife. Easy to carry, nicely thought out pocket clip. I wish that the backspacer was a little bit bigger. I really do, because on something that's this sharp. What do you think of Cher's Alpha case? I don't know. I really don't know. Alpha class, I mean. I don't know. I haven't gotten to see it. Shard? I almost sharded last night. I was on my way up. The bathroom next to our office doesn't work. Oh, that's not what you mean. I haven't gotten to see it. I haven't gotten to see any of... Are you talking Schrade? Schrade Alpha class? I haven't gotten to see any of the new Schrade stuff. So if that's what you're talking about, I haven't seen it. And if you're here, please drop a like. I'd appreciate it. Just an incredible knife. And Alex is very transparent. Alex is very transparent about everything he's doing. Like he like with my sharpening, like I can show you how to sharpen all day. That doesn't mean you're gonna be able to do it. Alex has got no problems being transparent about what's going on in his shop and working. And I get to talk to Alex. It's great being a YouTuber and getting to know some of these guys. It's really cool because I get to talk to Alex about what's going on in his shop. And I do know, guys, if you're coming in, I do know that Cole is live as well, but I really don't care because I'm not going live the same way he is. I'm going live on the shorts feed. So, but getting to see, you get an insight into Alex's machine shop. You get to kind of see what's going on. And he keeps everybody in the loop, and he's really, really good about it. And I think that on top of everything else, it's just icing on the cake as to why I like the stuff coming out of SteinGrabber Performance Knives. And his fixed blades are amazing. They really, really are. I love so many of the knives that are out as far as fixed blades, but like his Sasquatch, the little squat one, it just reminds me so much of a little hunting knife that my dad got for me. And I absolutely love it. And so I wish I had one. Yeah, coleslaw. And this kind of has the feel of some other knives that I've seen. This would be a fixed blade. Like if this was in a sheath, I would carry this. And the fact it's folder makes it awesome. And he did a really good job. This has got a very, very good blade to handle ratio for a folding knife. Folding knives usually suffer from blade to handle ratio. You can have a bigger blade than you can a handle in a fixed blade, but you can't do it in a folder. What's the quickest way to a mirror edge? There's no real good quick way to do it. You just got to get good at removing the scratch pattern. Some people say that like better stones will do it faster, and it's true. Some of them will. The Shapton ceramics are really good and will get you a mirror polish really quick. And they're good for pretty much anything. The Shapton Pros, like the cream, I have an orange one and stuff like that. But they're really, it's more up to like you knowing when it's time to switch stones. And if you go back, I've done a bunch of videos on sharpening and things like that. And if you're a paying member, if you're a premium guy, you get access to my sharpening tutorial series. So now we're going to talk about the one that Will just keeps egging me into. Olamic. Now, Olamic is an American company. These, I would say, border on almost custom. Like, you can get custom knives from Olamic, but they also have some that take you, that you can just pick up on Blade HQ and stuff like that. Now, I don't know how much these cost right now because this knife was a gift. But man, oh man, do they get their heat treat good. Their M390 is amazing. The thing about their knives is, one, they're always visually striking. That can be visually striking where you're like, well, that looks like poopy caca. Or you could be like me and just indulge yourself in just embracing the weirdness that are Olamic knives and really just get down to enjoying them. Because once you get past the weird look of them, you are not going to find a knife that's more comfortable in hand. The Wayfarer, the most comfortable knife in hand. It doesn't matter what blade shape. This is the sheep's cliff blade that they have on it. This is the Olamic 247 sheep's cliff. I did not modify this. This is the rock pattern that came on it from Olamic. The only thing I did was the anodizing to give it a specific look that I wanted. And I re-stone washed the blade because it had an acid washed blade and I didn't like it. So I just re-stone washed the blade. This is the most comfortable knife in hand, the most comfortable pocket clip, the easiest pocket clip to get in and out of pocket, and one of the best cutting knives that I own. With that being said, I don't know why it's not further up my list of knives that I love so much. I don't know why it's not further up my list of knives that get carried more. I really don't. And I'm friends with Eugene and his father at Olamic Cutlery. I love those guys. They're great. Him and his dad get in a fight at every knife show, like they do. And then Eugene takes off, and then I come back, and his dad's there. I'm like, where's Eugene? He goes, I don't care. With the heavy Russian accent. He's like, I tell him he have to move out of the house. I kick him out. I'm like, oh, no, don't do that. And then by the end of the knife, by the end of the knife show, they're all buddy and chummy, and they're back into their good graces. And if you're here, all 48 of you, please drop a like. So Olamic is one of those companies that just does amazing work, but it's bordering on custom. Their knives aren't as readily available as some of the others we've talked about. I think that they may be a little bit more available than Alex's knives over at SteinGrabber Performance Knives. But I got to tell you, if you can get one, if you can get on a wait list to get them to make you one, however you do it, you are not going to be disappointed in anything about it. Just some of the most attractive knives. Okay, if you're like me and you're a weirdo and you find that attractive. Some of the most attractive knives, but when it comes down to it, I'm not afraid to use this knife. This is a very expensive knife. I think not to be nosy, but what did you pay for your knife? What are they quoting you for price to have yours made? Because it's pretty much standard, because this was not a standard build. This was a knife show special, so that means it was almost a custom. I'm going to say a lot of their knives are about $700. So it's definitely not the cheapest. But then again, if you're going to try and buy one of these and they're not in stock at Alex's, you're looking at about $1,300 on the secondary market for one of these. You could say that about a lot of these knives. $645 shipped. That's full custom. This is probably in that price range. Not quite. It was probably a show special. It might have been in the $500 range. But I'm going to tell you right now, for some of these companies, not Benchmade, but for some of these companies, you're not overpaying. Like even if I had not bought this, if this had not been a gift, there would have been one of these in my future. I would have bought one of these. I would have saved up and bought one. It's like the same with Grimsmo knives. I guess you could kind of say that they're an American-made company. They're in Canada, North America, but kind of the same thing. Their knives are on a lottery system. Like, you got to get a call. Like, hey, you won the chance to get this knife. Their knives are incredibly exclusive, especially like something like the Rask. Their pins as well. Just amazing quality from them, though. So 37 people here, 14 likes. Please drop a like. Now, you guys know that we had to do this, even though they're not available anymore. This gets into a different realm. So we talked about full production. We talked about limited run production. And then you get into limited run, never to be seen again knives like this. So Fen Forge was a little oddity in the knife world. When they did these in-house runs, they would do a run of 200 knives and never make that model again. This is the Fen Forge Master Blaster. There are only 100 of these because when they did collaborations, they would do runs of 100. This is a collaboration between them and Les George. There are only 100 of these knives, and well, there's a few extras because Elliot had parts that he built together. So, but as far as like what was available for order, 200 knives. And it's something like this, a collaboration with another maker, 100. This is really special because it's been hand carved. That is a completely different animal, but they were American made and they were doing mid-tech style knives, which meant that they were having their parts manufactured. They were shipped to them and they had them manufactured here in the United States. They had their blades ground and all that stuff. And then they built these knives by hand in their shop. All of their finishing, all of the internal spacings and things like that were done in their shop. And I know this for a fact because if you guys remember, I used to work out of their shop to make my knives, and I helped do a lot of stuff, little grunt work around the shop to pay my shop rent. Things like doing ceramic, things like that. But at any rate, if I had to pick a company that I think was producing some of the most unique, over the top, highest quality folders in America, on the planet, was Fen Forge Knife Works. And it's not that I'm biased because Elliot is a friend of mine, which he is. He's a very, very good friend of mine. One of my best friends in the world. But when you get one of their knives in hand, there's just something about it. Even their production knives are amazing. They're just not American made anymore. The problem was they just couldn't afford to do it on their price. Oh, uh-oh. You know what I didn't do? You guys may still be able to hear me. I'm going to head over. I didn't grab my other beer out of the refrigerator. I have to grab another adult beverage. You should still be able to hear me. But Fen Forge, they did some incredible work on knives. And it's just, I'm kind of sad. I'm happy that they found a way to maintain their output and be financially stable. But I also wish, I wish that the days of this was still there, when they were doing some of the best American-made knives out there, period, hands down. I wish that there was a way that you guys could experience how good one of these knives is. Anybody that owns one will tell you, with some rare exceptions of people that just like don't like Elliot and things like that, to be able to experience something like this, it has its own feel. Fen Forge Knife Works in-house builds feel a specific way. And it's because every one of those knives was hand-tuned. Every one of those knives was hand-built. Every one of those knives went through Elliot's hands and Chris's hands, which meant that they set the detent. They set the lock tension. They set everything about it. Everything about it. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That was a production. That wasn't, they didn't do that. This was all in-house. All the edge grinds were done by hand. All of the fittings were done by hand. All of the screws, everything was measured. The standoffs were measured. They had different size standoffs. They measured everything to make sure that every knife that left their shop was perfect. But that comes at a price because it took them about a week to build a knife. So they'd do a run of 200 knives. And I mean, it didn't take them a week, but like they would have knives on the counter. And like when you really looked at it, yeah, they were doing multiple at a time. But it took about a week for each knife. They would do each step. They would do multiple steps and have all the handles and everything. And they would build those knives in stages. But it literally would take a week to run through all those stages for every knife. OG Mordax is amazing. Yes. Yes. I don't regret selling it. You weren't talking to me about the Mordax, right? Because I have one of the original. Yeah, you do. And I was kind of referring to you. I was hoping you'd jump in there. They just have a different feel. And that's something you're just not going to find in any production knife. Like Alex's knives are great. There's just something about having a knife that somebody put the work into to make sure it was exactly the way they wanted it every time. And they're great. This is by far one of my, I think this is, like if I had to pick a knife that was my favorite, this would be it. This was special because not only is it a hand-carved Elliott Williamson Master Blaster, which is an amazing knife, this was a commissioned piece by a couple of my friends, and Elliott did it for him. And it's just a really special piece of my collection because two of my really good friends went out of their way to get me something that I was never going to be able to get for myself. So, what do you guys think? What are your favorite American brands? There's a lot of them out there. Like I said, I wish I had a Koenig. I wish I had a Koenig to throw up here and tell you, because as far as the best knife, hands down, best knife ever on the channel was that Koenig Mini Arius flipperless. Like I say that there's a lot of knives that are best. Like this is right now the best big batch American production knife on the market. It is. And you're going to see a video tomorrow about this knife. I honestly believe that this is right now the best production, USA made production knife on the market. And on top of that, the fact that they've been able to do this so well, not lose their quality and lower their prices, just amazing. And if you guys are one of the 42 people here that have not dropped a like, I'd appreciate it. Well, it's not 42, but you know what I mean. Will B says he's got Microtech, ProTech, Grimsmo, and TKL. Tim is another company I forgot to mention Tim. Tim's doing small batch fixed blades and things like that. We may run this a little longer. I got some time. I probably won't go to bed till noon or 1. I got to be back in tonight at 11. And they, you guys love this. They hired a guy. And I was supposed to come in and then take his spot at 11 o'clock. And I came in and my boss was there when I came in. And I was like, what happened to the new guy? What happened to the new guy? Where's the new guy? He goes, bro, I trained this guy for 2 hours. And then I left. He's like, 10 minutes later, he had a call saying, family emergency, I got to go. Key's hanging on the door. And I was like, you serious? Well, he didn't come back. So we're working a lot of overtime because there's 3 shifts, but only 3 people. So that means we're working a lot of 12s. We're looking. What knife was that? Are you talking about this one? This is the Microtech Amphibian. And this is, I used to say that the Microtech Stitch was my favorite Microtech, even though it's a Borka design, but they, the ones that I could even think about affording instead of the customs were the Microtech ones. I said that for so long, and it was true. I loved it. It was like, it went in order. It went like Microtech Stitch, and then the Microtech DOC, and then there was another Microtech that I got to handle, and I can't think of the name of it, that would have been third. And then I got a hold of this one, and I'm like, best Microtech ever. I like this better than the SOCOMs. And I like the SOCOMs. They're good knives. So, Koenigs are beautiful. Yes, they are, Jacob. They are beautiful. And the thing is that the family's just amazing, too. You want to talk about beautiful. If you've never seen Bill Koenig's sister, Krista, I believe, that young lady is not hard on the eyes, But the fact is, the whole family's really sweet. I like getting to spend some time with them and hang out with them. But if you haven't ever seen a video with Bill and his sister in it, she's definitely attractive. But the fact is, the flip side of it is not only is she's just a really sweet, sweet lady. So, and then Tim Reeve and then his wife, Marissa? I can't remember her name. I feel horrible. I can't remember Tim's wife's name. Just had a baby. So, yeah. None of the knives that you saw, if you haven't watched the whole live feed, go back and watch from the beginning. None of the knives that I showed I would never try to steer you wrong when it comes to knives. And that's one of the things about the channel. Like, people complain about, well, that's just like your opinion, man. And I was like, yeah, just like every other reviewer. Like, I like to try and bring you things. I like to bring you insights on knives that might be the things that you find that you also don't like. And so it allows me to give you a little insight into things that you may not get to see. And it might save you, like if you're like me, and you don't like a big old fucking lanyard hole in your knife, that might be something that you want to avoid, and therefore, oh boy, therefore you may want to like hold off until you get a chance to see one in hand. There's things about knives that I love that I wish I could change. Case in point, as much as I love this knife, absolutely my favorite knife in my collection. For personal reasons and the fact it's just an amazing knife. But do you see that? Elliot crammed as much blade as you could possibly get in a knife in that handle. There is no more room for knife. And the problem is, if you jam your finger into that good and hard, you're going to bleed. But, you know what else did that? That KATSU ZK04 that I love so much, right into the tip of my finger. It's just one of those things. There's things that I would, like, if you could change things about knives, I would. There would be things I would change about knives, but typically, I like most of the things about knives. Very rarely do I find a knife that I just don't like. And even more rarely do I find a knife maker I can't stand. I think we all know who I'm talking about. He's not really a knife maker though, is he? Are you watching, Paulo? I know that you follow me because every time I open a new account, you block me. So, Paulo Bluzano is a douche nozzle, just so you guys know. Just so you know. My Norseman is upstairs on my bedstand, or we'd have that and we'd talk about how good that is because technically that is a North American made knife. But then there's other companies out there. So we've talked about the American made knives, but then there's other companies out there that are American companies that in striving to provide you with a cost effective, what's your top small fixed blade? Well, of course I got to say my sea snake design with Artisan Cutlery. That is silly to even think. Wiseman BJJ91. Did you know that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is only gay if you make eye contact? So I can't stand Paulo Bluzano because he ripped off so many people with that Kickstarter that he did where he basically stole $70,000 of people's money and has not done a single knife. My hat is crooked. How do I feel about him? I wouldn't slow down for him in a crosswalk. He said he was going to kick. Just in case you haven't ever watched this, point of reference, I am 6'3", 240 pounds. Paulo Bluzano is probably 5'10", 140. Yeah, it's pretty. Unless you're doing it. I've taken martial arts I've taken martial arts my whole life. I absolutely respect Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm going to tell you right now, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is probably the most functional martial art out there. It's if you don't have a base in grappling, striking will only get you so far. It's really hard to strike when the dude's on top of you and he's got your elbows locked in and you're like, I have no leverage. And then he just has his way with you and does unspeakable things to you because, Well, he made eye contact. Oh, but there's some companies out there I just don't, there's some people out there that I don't like. I don't think that they've got the knife community's best interests at heart. Some people would say, oh, you said that about Oz Machining. I was like, no, I just think, I just can't put my finger on what makes their knives so sought after. Because on top of everything, when you're dealing with knives, and especially when you're passionate about the hobby and having been a knife maker and making knives and designing knives, there's a little bit of your soul that goes into each one, and I just don't feel it. The Oz Roosevelt, the Rosie, is an incredible knife. It is, when it comes to execution, I think it is on the precipice of perfection when it comes to execution. It really is. Like, if you've ever handled an Oz Roosevelt, the Oz Rosie is right there on the edge of perfect. Closer, I would say, than any knife I've ever handled. Like, I can say that. But I also can look at the knife and go, but why does it look so plain and why is it ugly? Like, why couldn't you have done this with a knife that had a little bit of soul, a little pizzazz, a little pop, something that just gives it that feel? That's why I think that this one speaks to me so well. Because not only does it have all those things that I talked about, I mean, it's not like when I say the Oz Roosevelt is on the verge of perfection. To quote AVE, it's a cunt hair away. And I don't mean a thick Mediterranean. I mean like a blonde Scandinavian. It is that close to perfect. In a knife that just is hideous, in my opinion. And it's not that it's hideous. It lacks anything that speaks to me. I'm like, great, I could have a perfect knife that I don't want to carry. Or I could give up a couple things and have a knife that is still incredible, but then still has that little bit of a pop. I know they're not jewelry. Everybody's like, hey, knives aren't jewelry. I carry a knife for work. Well, good. You probably carry like a $30 garbage knife. I have some of those, and I have news for you. I use these knives for shit that most people would quit. To buy this knife on a secondary market is ridiculously expensive. And I do stuff with this knife that most people that would buy this and add it to their collection just cringe. They would cringe watching me do the stuff that I do with this knife. Like, I'm gonna have to refinish it. Can I get a glint of the finish and scratches and things that are on this? Let me see if I can get it. I have scratched the ever-living shit out of the finish on this knife. Just doing stuff. Do I have a favorite lock? That's a tight one. I think if I had to pick a favorite lock, I don't know. It's, hey, Lace, check your DMs. I sent you a DM about somebody that was trying to get a hold of you, and I need to get a hold of you because I need more stropping compound. I'm doing a side-by-side I don't know what you call it, comparison between some cheap stuff that I bought that's a waxy residue, takes like 3 days to dry, which surprisingly did an amazing job. So just, oh, Olamic made recommendations on finish when I asked about carrying and using every day. Stonewash. A stonewash finish is always the best way to go. If I had to pick a favorite lock, right now, I gotta say, there are a few knives out there that have got amazing Axis style locks. I kind of have to say, if I was gonna pick a favorite lock right now, it's a toss-up between the Ram lock and the compression lock. They're both amazing. They're both robust. They both allow you some latitude in right and left-handedness. They're pretty much ambidextrous, and they're both really, really strong. Compression lock, probably one of the strongest knives on the, one of the strongest locks on the market. Now, I still do love a frame lock. But if I was going to say in order, it'd probably be the ram lock or a really good axis lock, like a plunger style axis lock. The problem I've always had with an axis lock is if you only do one side of and I wish I had one to show you. If you only do one side of a standard axis lock, you compress the springs on one side, you wind up cracking your springs. And then on these, that spring is in a central location. And when you pull down on it, the whole thing compresses. So you don't have to worry about a spring on either side going bad. So I would say this is probably my favorite. I lost a ton of members. I think that YouTube stopped doing the automatic renewal. I literally lost half of my members in the last month. And I haven't said anything about it because I really haven't been doing anything for the members. At any rate, then compression lock, I would say, would be my second, or tied with button locks. Now, the reason I like the compression lock is the strength, because when you look at strength of a lock, I think that triad lock, then compression lock, and some others, they just fall in line with the strength of the lock. But I'm not doing things where I'm going to cause the lock to fail. So I would say this one and a button lock are kind of tied. And then amazing things with button locks like that, what is it, the Beyond EDC warning button, where there's a button lock built into the pivot. Amazing. It's just amazing. So yeah, lazy. I don't know what's going on. I think they purged a bunch of people. So sorry. I don't know why it's not showing you as a. I'll have to look. I don't know why it's not showing. It doesn't show you as a member. Let me see. Does it show Aiden as a member? Yeah, Aiden's listed as a member. I don't know what's going on. And there's 44 people here and only 21 likes, which means y'all didn't like it. Should be right back. 1 second, all burb. Ill burb. Are you going to do an ill burb? Have you tried the Snex Super Lock or the Vosteed top tier? Snex Super Lock. You ready for this? Everybody keeps telling me that I was full of shit because the old original Super Lock that was on the, I can't remember what knife it was. I could pull it back and then pop it up and it would come disengaged and then the blade would just swing. And people say, oh, you're doing it. No, I did it by accident. I didn't even know you could do that until I accidentally did it. So I accidentally did it and people were like, oh, that's so you can take it's easier to clean. I was like, no, it's not. Don't fucking lie. They fucked up and then had to come up the Vision R. There you go. She's just looking. Just looking. Like me when I pulled the shower curtain up while my wife was taking a shower. I'm just, what are you doing? Just looking? I'm just looking. Yes, you are a member now. So, yeah, new job. I'm going to tell you guys, the new job is great. I don't mind working nights. I never have. It gives us some latitude because my daughter's driving now. So when I come home, she's got the car. My wife's awake. I'm asleep. She's asleep. I'm awake. We don't ever see each other. Less fights. Just kidding. So it's just, yeah, they fixed that in the Civivi version, but everybody tried to justify that, Peter. So Petey, they tried to justify that. Oh, you don't know why it's supposed to be like that. And I'm like, I actually had it happen going in my pocket. And I'm like, well, that's fucking unsafe. Jim Skelton agreed with me. We both got roasted by the knife community at large. And I was like, you know what that tells me? That tells me that you really don't do the things with a knife that I do, which means that there's a reason that I review knives. So, Your Vision R does? Yeah, it does. It does. And people did like, no, you can't, it doesn't do that. You're making it do that. And I'm like, I wouldn't have known it did that because I was like the first person that said anything about it. So where was, pardon me, where was I going to glean that information? Because there wasn't like any other video until I did mine. There was no other videos about that fault in that knife lock until I did the video. And I'm like, how is it possible? How are you saying these things? What is this? Oh my God, daughter. My daughter starts college. My daughter already got accepted into UCSD, which is cool because that means that she can drive to and from school. I have to get her a car. We have to get a car. There's just no way. Big E's Knives. What's up, Big E? So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really good knife companies out there. I wanted to do this because, like I said, I always get flagged as a guy who's like, you only do Chinese knives. And I was like, well, that's because Chinese companies are the ones that are usually typically reaching out to me to review their knives. Speaking of which, I don't know when I'm going to do it. I got the Vosteed Mini Labrador that just came in. I haven't even opened it yet. The Vosteed knives are amazing. Yeah, I've not been active in the past month, 30 days of vacay. Yeah, your son broke his thumb pretty good. I had to go get some roofing nails and a couple screws and a piece of siding and put that thing back together the right way. So what do you guys got going on? We'll do this until I finish this beer, and then I got to take a shower and go to bed. I got to be at work tonight. They said they only have 3 people employed right now. And we have a day shift, we have a night shift, and we have a day shift, a swing shift, and a night shift, right? But if you only have 3 people, everybody gets 2 days off. So we've been working our days off, and we've been working 12. I worked a 7 to 7, so I went at 7 p.m., worked till 7 a.m., and I came home. Well, okay, I worked 11 to 7. Came home, took a shower, went to bed, got up at 7, which is like at 2 hours earlier than I usually get up to be in at 7:30. Worked from 7, no, I'm sorry, I got up at 6:30. Worked from 7 to 7:30, so 7:30 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. Came home, took a shower, went to bed, and worked from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. I live in California. But if you're trying to track me right now, I got my VPN set up. It's going to tell you I'm in fucking Colorado somewhere. I started using VPN when I do live feeds. We had a stalker here a few years ago that was threatening my daughter and was coming from, I can't remember where. He was coming from somewhere, taking pictures of the house, sending us pictures of the house and things like that. So I live in California. But I'm from Ohio. So it looks like it's going to rain outside. But thank you very much for joining as a member, Lacey. And if you guys were members and you can't figure out why you're not, don't ask me. You got to ask YouTube. Bro, that thing is carried a lot. I just don't ever put it in videos. It's like always close. I always forget how bad that scar is until I do a live feed. Like, I don't know what it is about doing the live feeds. I don't know if it's the camera or what. The Heretic, we were just talking about the Heretic. Might be local in North Carolina. I mean, I'm from... How does one contact YouTube about what? I don't know. Contacting YouTube about? I don't know. Yeah, that's scary having someone track you. It was because I forget what had happened. Somehow my address got out there, and I'm really careful about it now. Very few people have my actual address now. So, but the thing is, not to get my live feed taken down, but I think a lot of you know what that is. It's not like that's ever very far away, ever. So. That door that's locked, yeah, go ahead. Don't kick that. That door you just kicked down was locked for your protection, not for mine. So yeah, we had somebody threatening to essay my daughter on a. What do you think about the Kershaw launch? I don't like Kershaw knives. I don't like Kershaw knives at all. I have never, with the exception of the leek, the Ken Onion leek, I don't think I've ever really liked a Kershaw knife. I really don't like them. And I don't like, okay, so here's the deal, Warner Construction. You can get a hold of me through, Will, if you send, Will, can you send the public Discord link? So, so that Mr. Construction can hit me up. If you join the public Discord that I have, you can actually hit me up via DM there, and we can figure out a way for you to get it to me. So, oh, I'm at my work. You're working? Lazy. Well, if 2A Dave was here, he'd do it. I think I can do it myself. So I have a public disc. It's actually gilded. Gilded is actually pretty cool. It's there. Oh, never. Will made it sound like he was gonna take hours. I was like, oh man, I'm over at the press. 9 micron seems to be my go-to these days. I like the 9 micron. That stuff you gave me. So EDC and Lace. That's Lacey. She's over on Instagram. She makes some incredible strop compounds. Now, I've had some good strop compounds. I've had a lot of good strop compounds. And I gotta say, I don't think that I've had one as heavily loaded with diamond as the stuff that Lacey sent me. And so I sprayed that stuff on a raw leather strop, and it looked like I had put it in the freezer and it was frosted. And that stuff you sent me, it held up so long. Now I did get now please don't hate me, Lacey, for this. I got 10 tubes of this like wax or oil-based or water-based stuff. It takes a long time for it to dry, but it does work really well. It just doesn't hold up as long. What is this? Why don't you like Kershaw? I've never been a fan myself. I don't know. I just found them to feel cheap a lot of times, and I never liked the ZT knives either. They were always bulky. They were in on that overbuilt thing, and then all their lock failures that they were having just became an issue. This is my channel. Mr. Mellon, this is my channel. Like, you're already on there, Mr. Mellon. Exactly, use extremely heavy concentration. It's the highest graded, most consistent size diamond you can get. I do have to say, like, it takes a little bit longer to dry than like the Gunny Juice. But I think it lasts longer than the other stuff. But you can get some budget stuff. I know, I was joking back. I didn't even clean that lens. I don't know if this has been greasy looking or what. Like, why does it look like why does it look like there's Vaseline on that lens? So, guys, this has been a productive live feed. I typically don't like to, we've had over 1,200 people in and out of this live feed. So, yeah, I mean, Kershaw and ZT, everybody's like, oh, it's American made. Yes, but the flip side is, and I'm going to give you a little lesson in how Japan works. Japan have these companies. Japan has these companies that in the United States would be considered monopolies. Kai is one of them. Kai owns ZT, Kai of America. It's a division of Kai of Japan. Now, if you're in Japan, if you own something that's made out of metal, it was probably, if you own something that is made out of metal, that metal was probably made by Kai. Your kitchen sink, your knives, and anything you use to maintain that. Sharpening stones, Kai. Kai owns ZT Knives. They own ZT Knives. So technically, ZT Knives is a division of a Japanese company. That's why they're not here. And then I just have problems with their being overbuilt, but then having a lot of lock failures. So you can look at it that way. And Kershaw is part of that whole branding. So I really don't even consider, like, that's why you didn't see anything from ZT, on top of the fact I don't own any ZTs. And then I don't find their knives to be worth, they're a lot like Benchmade. I don't find their knives to be worth what they're demanding as far as price. Second I got home, my daughter took my car and went to Pilates. Do I have guns? Of course I do. Yep, I use less glycol, more deionized water, so it's a thinner spray. It takes about 1 or 2 minutes to dry. Yeah, it does. They're so thick behind the edge, you're right. Yeah, if you get lacy stuff, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you spray your strops the day before you're gonna use them, or a couple hours before you use them, it's gonna be great. I actually loaded, so my ultra fine ceramic Spyderco comes in a leather slip, right? And it's a suede slip. I loaded my slip for my ultra fine ceramic with Lacey's spray. It's amazing. On something like that, like on that suede, it does not stop cutting. Like, I have not reloaded it. When she sent that stuff to me, I loaded it and then I never loaded it again. And the top of that thing is black from all the metal that it's removed. Still keeps cutting. Still keeps cutting. It's just in that suede. It's just, it's amazing. ZT overbuilt, overpriced. No, I'm not going to show you a gun. Benchmade Shootout was $270, one of the cheapest out the fronts. Yeah. So I just think that Benchmade, the reason I get so, like, people are like, oh, you just really hate on Benchmade. And I'm going to tell you, because I know there's a lot of people that are dropping in and out that have never been here. If you show a firearm, if I show you a pew pew, they take down the live feed. If you were to go back 20 years, well, closer to 30 years, Benchmade was the best thing you could hope to get in the military. Like, if you got a Benchmade knife, you were getting the top shelf. And their knives were incredible for so long. The problem is that they kept raising their prices and they did not improve their quality. And if anything, their quality has dropped drastically. Their knives just aren't that good. And I just can't fathom knives that are coming off their production line with the flaws that I'm seeing, that they're charging in their gold class, some of those knives, $700. I have not handled a Benchmade in years that I would pay more than $200 for. I haven't paid, okay. The Anthem was a very good knife. It was the first knife that had a plunger style, like, access bar lock, where there was one central spring on a post and it just slid kind of like this. It was the first, it was great. But I asked my buddy, he sent it to me for sharpening, and he's a Tucson, Arizona cop. And I asked him, I was like, how much was this? He's like, well, I paid $400. And I was like, good God. It's not that, like, he's like, it's like, well, it's an integral. But the thing is, he's like, well, that's not what that's what I paid for it. I was like, well, how much are they rated? It's like $700 regular price. The Anthem is a good knife. It's not a $700 knife. There is not a $700 Benchmade. There's not a $1,250 Benchmade. None of those exist. because I've never had one come that didn't have a fucked up edge, that wasn't like, if it's got an axis lock, it's like got blade play. If it's free, if you can do this with a Benchmade, it's got blade play. It's got blade play. You can take that blade and wiggle it back and forth. Because if you tighten it down to the point where it doesn't have that wiggle, it's a two-hand closer. And I'm like, bro, come on. Benchmade designed that lock. There are so many companies out there that are doing the axis lock better than they are. Here's the thing. I had a Benchmade knife come in. Ready for this? I had a Benchmade knife come in. And it looked like it had two different grits. It looked like it had a different grit from side to side. I was like, that looks like they never had a really, really bad burr. Really, really bad burr on one side. And I'm like, that is hideous. And I looked at it and I was like, it looks like they went from a 150 grit to a 220, but only on one side. And I'm like, what the fuck? I don't know what an FBI knife is. CRK, Chris Reeve Knives, yeah. Like if you're looking for a knife for work, this will work and work and work and work. I can't say, let me see. This is the only knife I've ever bought twice. Ever. I have never sold a knife and immediately turned around and bought another one. This is the only knife, the Sebenza is the only knife I have ever bought, sold one later, years later, and bought another one. Like with it, like, and I mean within the span of like 2 weeks. And I've owned a lot of knives. I still own a lot of knives. So these things are stupid, stupid sharp. What's the best knife that I have? I don't know what would be my best knife. I have favorites. I was talking about this one. This is hand carved with a copper inlay, built by hand. Probably if you were to buy it, when you look at the cost of carving, you're looking at $1,400 to $1,600. So his best knife is the one that, yeah, the Master Blaster. This is hands down, like if I had to give up every other knife in my collection, like if I had to, this would be the one I would keep. And like I said, Elliot went to the fact, like that is raised. Like if you look, that's not just on there. He cut a groove in this, put a piece of copper on top, hammered it in, squished it in, left it tall, and then carved it to look like the spine on a xenomorph because he knows that I love the alien stuff. Have I ever seen a Hogue Colt? I have. I have. They're a good knife. I like the Hogue stuff. Oh, that's a company I didn't mention. I don't own any of the Hogue stuff. I had some Hogues and I did them as giveaways to my paying members. Which, if you're a paying member, I apologize. I still owe you guys that giveaway. I just have not had time to sit down and film it. The most expensive one I have, it's a toss-up, but I have 3 knives that are right in about the same price range. About $1,200 to $1,600 frame. I have like 3 of them that are about the same. Oh, and here's the thing, like people flip, look how much I've used this knife. Like I use the shit out of this knife. I've worn the ceramic. So this is a $1,500 knife. This is a $1,500. It really is. This, I get why they go for close to that on the secondary market. This is worth what Benchmade's charging. This is an amazing knife. If you haven't tried one of Alex's knives. You got to get on his mailing list, find out when he does a pre-order again and get one. He just made them thinner and he did them in LMAX. So guys, it has been 90 minutes. I love all of you guys, but I really do need to take this dog for a quick walk, get a shower, go to bed. Well, I have one more beer. Do you guys want to hang out for just a little bit more? We could go for a walk and I could grab something cool. Hang on. I got to take you with me because you're connected and plugged into this thing. So let's grab a whole tripod. Did the audio change when I unplugged it? Did the audio change when I unplugged this? I don't know. Just asking. What are you doing, buddy? All right. I just picked the whole tripod up. That's the nice thing about it being a big guy. I can just grab stuff and just walk around with it. Let's see here. I'll grab a couple more. I'll grab a couple more of my higher end. I'm out in the studio now. Grab a couple more of my higher end offerings that I've got. Let's see here. Talk about some cool stuff since we've. Yeah, that should be enough. Pardon me. Do you think I have some knives? It's like a goddamn storeroom out here. So let's see here. Okay, cool. I just don't know, because when I did it one time, like I unplugged the power cord for all of this, because I'm on my phone. I unplugged my power cord and it seemed to screw up the audio. So we'll talk about a couple. This is, oh. Yes, I have a karambit knife. I should have grabbed that. I'm not gonna, oh, I do. We gotta go back out. I forgot something. I forgot something. I have a karambit knife. It's just not here. I let someone borrow it. Karambits are cool. I prefer picals over karambits. I think a pical is a much more easily to use self-defense tool. Let's see here. Let's grab this one. And oh, we'll grab another one of Elliot's hand carved knives. I have one of Elliot's other hand carved knives from Fen Forge Knife Works. But then I got to start putting this stuff away before my wife gets home. So when I get ready to. My favorite brand is Gabe Hitch. Ever heard of them? I have not. I have not. Oh, let's get this plugged back in. So I grabbed a couple really special knives. So this is really, really special for a couple reasons. One, it's crazy expensive. These things are stupid expensive. This is a Matt Diskin full custom, hand polished Revolution. And I need to, for you guys to see this adequately, I need to like turn this around. This has got a Damascus pivot, cream or ivory G10, titanium that has been anodized blue. It's beautiful. G10 backspacer, or I'm sorry, carbon fiber backspacer. And it is amazing. And on top of that, fully hand polished. And the reason that this is so special is because on top of everything else that makes this special, if you guys remember, I was really good friends with Elijah Isham. And Elijah gave me this knife as a gift before he passed away. And the other really cool thing about this is not only is the action on that amazing with the reverse flick, and it's just about drop shut. It has got a hidden little trick to it because this thing is a switchblade. So Elijah had given this to me to take home for sharpening. And I told him, I was like, yeah, I'll get it sharpened and get it back to you. And every time we tried to hook up, it was something I was like, bro, like, I got to get this knife to you. Like, give me your address. And he was like, oh, well, I moved. I'll get you my new address. And then, oh, well, I moved. I'll get you my new address. And I was like, he was going to, eventually he was like, I'm going to come out to San Diego and we'll just hang out. I was like, cool. And I'll give you your knife. And then the trip got postponed. He goes, just keep the knife, bro. He's like, I got so many other knives. He's like, I don't need that knife. He's like, just keep it. It's a gift. And I was like, bro. And then a few months later, well, those of us in the knife community know what happened. But this is the mechanism is right there. That's the switch. It's a hidden switchblade. Woo, does that fly open. So there's that. Another really expensive knife. So Elliot Williamson, we talked about the knife that he hand carved for me. I picked this up. This is a Maker's Choice. This is all hand carved. He used a 1/32 ball end mill in a Dremel and carved every one of those little scales in there by hand. And then just a gorgeous, gorgeous knife overall. This was another collaboration with a, this was Gavco. So these were about $1,000 total when they came out. This one was called the Marlin because it looks like, well, you can see it. It looks like a Marlin, doesn't it? That's a really cool one. I dig that one a lot. And then I grabbed a couple other things that are pretty cool. Let me grab my other adult beverage and pour it for myself. Oops. Don't judge me. This shit's like $15 for a 20-pack. Or a 30-pack, I mean. So I have what was my Grail knife, which is probably it's basically a top tier. And when we were talking about American-made knives, I kept mentioning a Canadian company, Grimsmo Knives. I own one of their knives. It was painful to purchase. I saved for like 5 years to get it, and I got it. And the reason I saved for 5 years, I mean, I had the money and then I used some of it, and then I had the money and I used some of it. But I got a Grimsmo Norseman. So I picked. Oh, I don't drink very much. This is the first. I got news for you. That is the first beer I've had in probably a week and a half, 2 weeks. I just, I felt like doing that. So this is the Grimsmo Norseman. Hang on a second. Tell 2A Dave, I'm live on YouTube. What the hell are you doing? That is my prime moderator right there. So I got this one. This shipped, used, cost me, with shipping, $1,100. This was exactly the knife I wanted. I have re-anodized it. I re-anodized and orange peeled the pocket clip. This is probably the most incredible knife I've ever owned. You kind of have to wait. I found it on the secondary market. So I wanted one that was an older model that didn't have a steel lock bar insert. I wanted it with the reverse honeycomb, and so one came available, and I got it myself. So I knew a guy that worked at a place that did consignment sales or resale, almost like not NAF sale. Arizona Custom Knives, kind of like that, kind of one of those deals. And so I got exactly the one I wanted. And I absolutely love this knife. It is the most incredibly smooth knife I've ever handled. It's just an incredible knife. And if you're here, please drop a like. We're going to finish this beer and then I'm going to go to bed because it's my nighttime. But yeah, that's some expensive ones. And then I brought this out because this is a company that you might not have heard of. And yeah, they have their stuff made offshore. Granted, we were talking about American knives. They have their stuff made in China. But this is a guy in Sweden, I believe. And he designs these knives, and they're just amazing. This is the PMP Aries. Now, this isn't one of the most expensive knives I own. But it definitely is one of the cooler knives I own. Shouldn't I be sleeping? I don't go to bed till like 1. So even when I get done here, I'm going to take a shower, I'm going to eat something, and I'll be up for a couple more hours. But yeah, this is one of the most interesting and unique knives I own. This was a gift from one of the paying members, Winston Cobretti. He got this for me. I have several other PMP knives, but these are just so well done. Watch this. Whoo! It's dangerous. It fall on my finger and cut it off. That's one of the big things with this one. Can you hear it? Let me see. You can hear it closing. Like, you're like, what the? That's a big, heavy blade. You gotta be ready. You gotta make sure you got your fingers out of the way on that puppy. So, drop a like if you would be so kind. Yeah, but that's, I mean, there's a lot of knives that are out there that are expensive that don't warrant expensive knives. And then there's companies out there that are putting out really, really good knives. And they fall in that same price range and they kind of get vilified. Like I said, people look at this and say, well, that's a $700 knife. And I'm like, yeah, but it's worth it. We're like, yeah, but Benchmade's doing $700 knives. And I was like, yeah, but those suck. And it kind of gets in the mix. It kind of just gets where like that price point just gets kind of vilified. And there are knives out there that definitely justify that price point. I've showed you a bunch of them. I don't know what I don't know what CRK, I don't know what the Chris Reeve Sebenza cost now. I paid $410 for my Chris Reeve Sebenza. And I fully understand that there has been a price increase, which is what just amazes me, like I said, about this one being like $150 less than what I paid for my first knife of the same size, same similar materials, same style-ish kind of thing, the Microtech DOC. I paid, well, okay, I paid $400, I think I paid $450 for that one. So let's say 302, so round it down to $300, $150 more in 2015. And now here we are, 2024, and this knife is $150 cheaper. So top 5 companies right now. Ooh, that's a tough one. There's a lot of really good companies. I mean, you have to look at it. Like We Knife Company and Reat are up there on, like, they're at the top when it comes to like just production, like consistency and quality and getting good heat treats. When it comes to just impeccable machining, you're not going to get 5. You're going to get more than 5. Just like top tier machining, you're talking like Roosevelt, I'm sorry, Oz. Oz Machining. and like Grimsmo, and Alex SteinGrabber. So you're looking at like there's 5 companies I think are probably top tier, but there's so many out there. There's so many out there, and I don't really, you know why you don't hear me ever talk about Shirogorov? Because I'm not a big fan of their knives. I don't get the hype. They are not that good. The Neon was good, but not what people are paying for them on the secondary market. There are so many other knives out there, so many other companies that are doing it as good. Now, don't get me wrong. I like the Shirogorov knives. They're good looking knives. But I just don't see that they're that much better than what other companies are putting out. My daughter's home, so we will end this. So yeah, it's just, there's so much stuff. I would like to remind you guys, next time I do a live feed, I try not to talk about it too much. You guys are always welcome to drop super chats if you want to help support the channel, because it definitely does help offset the cost, because I got less stuff coming in, so I'm probably gonna start purchasing some stuff. And then if you want to get on some exclusive stuff, I do have memberships and stuff like that. So I'm going to end this. Guys, I love you. I will see you the next time I get a chance to do a live feed. And I will take it easy, guys. I'm going to get some sleep. Warner, you go follow that link and join that Discord, and you can hit me up with a DM, and we'll get a way to test your Tomahawk. So, guys, I'm out. I'll see you later. Where's that button that ends this?